what many people think coaching is that, I'm going to sit here and give you advice. No, that's called a trainer or a mentor. You already know your job. You know your position. What I'm trying to do is to really pull that knowledge that you already have and things that you already know.
Hey everyone, my name is Carmen Durvad, and this is Behind the Founders. Joining me today is Chuck Thokey. Chuck, welcome. Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you so much. So again, like you said, my name's Charles Thokey, Chuck Thokey, and I am the founder of a company called Top Rep. So we are the largest in the home improvement space when it comes to coaching for sales and sales leadership.
Nice. Thank you so much for the lovely introduction. So, how did you get started on Top Rep sales training?
So we got started. I've been coaching for quite a while, and I got in with a mentor of mine, Jim Johnson. And about halfway through, we decided that we wanted to really bring a different kind of brand or feel to coaching and wanted to change the way people got coached. And so we built Top Rep and it exploded. You would think that, we'd take a long time to ramp things up. And we had our first event. We sold that first event out, and we've been selling out events twice a year, every year for the last 5 years. And that's probably the smallest thing we do are the events. And so we do a ton of one-on-ones. We do a lot of group coaching. We are about to launch Top Rep 2.0, which is an entirely different way of even looking at coaching in this industry. So it's, we're venturing on certain things that have never been done inside the coaching industry at all.
Okay, great. So, obviously, for the listeners out there, right? Coaching has so many different directions, so many different fields and focus areas. So, in terms of your space of coaching and so on, is it primarily focused on the home service sales or what else? What are your primary focuses?
We've coached so many different, but we really focus on home improvement and home services. So a lot of your roofing, siding, windows, baths, but we're also getting very big in the HVAC, plumbing, electrical, those types of home services as well.
Okay, great. So, for the listeners out there who have never ever came across Top Rep sales training, could you walk them through and explain to them what exactly is your mission and purpose and what you do?
So with home improvement, a lot of these people, they're either sales reps that wanted to start their own business, or they are labor that wanted to start their own business. Either way, most of them don't understand how to run their business or how to get business. They think that if I build it, they will come. And that just doesn't happen. It's a cute little saying that doesn't work.
Yeah.
So, we help them to understand how to bring that business through the front door, how to sell it effectively. The other thing in our industry for years and years, people have been talking a lot about hard closing. I don't know if you know what hard closing is.
Hmm.
Hard closing or hard sales is when you invite somebody into your house that you wish you didn't once you get them in,
Okay.
and they just pretty much beat on you until you buy. That's the easy
Wow.
way of saying it, but that's
Yeah.
what our industry has been built on. If
Hmm.
you've ever seen the movie 10 Men or any of that, where they come in and they lie to you for an hour and a half to get you to buy a product that you may or may not even want. So what we have done is we've really changed the model. We've taken it to where we can compound your close rate or compound the profitability while doing it ethically. And so we have some of the largest companies in the United States and Canada that we started with. And then now what makes up a majority of our business are those businesses between 5 and 20 million.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, I was also just looking at your LinkedIn profile, right? And I'm reading that you have worked with, different variety of organizations, including Rebath, Bath Fitter, Able Roof, Mr. Roof, and you helped them grow the sales over 150%. So, during that process, what did you discover? What were some of the approaches that you used to help them succeed in that level?
So first, companies like that are rather large when we got in, and they're exponentially larger now. Actually, they're the largest companies in the United States when it comes to home improvement now. And what we had been able to do, or what I was able to do when I was their director of sales or VP, was build a team. If there's one thing that I'm really good at is building a team within an organization, understanding who needs to be on the team. Most people, when they're building a team out there, looking for great individuals. Well, that's great and all. That's wonderful. But do they match the culture?
Hmm.
That's the thing that most people don't really get or understand. And when you get a team, and they may not be the hardest working or the best closers, but if I can get a consistent team together, they will outclose anybody we come in contact with. Consistency and culture are the two things we look for in every organization we walk into.
All right. Let's talk a little bit more about consistency and culture. So, obviously, every culture is going to be different depending on the business setup, depending on the company. But from the experience that you've had, what would you say are the key ingredients or positive elements that make up of a very healthy, thriving team culture?
So when I come in, I'm going to ask them, and they kind of know where I'm coming from, but I'm going to ask them, is this a rec league or is this a professional team? Like when we have kids and we put them all in YMCA sports and everybody they get a chance, and then you find out that your kid's the one by the goal picking daisies, watching the ball roll into the goal. That's what we find so often. You have these organizations where that if you can fog a mirror, you can come in and they think that they can turn everybody into a great salesperson or a great leader. That's just not the case. So once we get their buy-in that they want to be a part of a great, professional team, we look at these NFL teams. And what most people don't get is that a majority of the team isn't on the field. They're up in the stands. They didn't even make the field. And then a majority of the people that made the field don't even get to take the field. They don't even get to play. So when we look at why that is that you have to earn your right to play. You have to, as a sales rep, we are the corporate athletes in our game. They have to earn their right to get the leads. They have to earn their right to have an opportunity. And some of these companies, they have to go out and prospect their own opportunities. But in a majority of them, companies that are very well run, they have this, I like to call it a factory, so the sales reps don't have to go out and prospect. They do their job by going out and selling. They rip off the rear view mirror, and they go out, they do their job, they sell. And then when it's time to follow up, they have a whole separate division that follows up. They're the ones so you have a division that goes out and prospects or brings the leads in. You have another organization or a department that will sell the job. And if they can't, then it gets to the next department, which follows up on that. You hire people that do things that they like to do and do them better than anybody else.
Yeah, that makes sense as well. And when it comes to going through the sales process, especially the closing or objection handling or identifying prospects, what would you say are the biggest challenges that you've been facing as a team, also particularly in the sales aspect?
You're always still dealing with humans,
Yeah,
and they're not on 100% of the
they're
time.
complicated. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And you have to know how to deal with your players. We like to say you got to know how to play the players. understand who you have, and that it's okay when somebody slides a little bit. You're gonna put them on the bench, but you're going to retrain them. You're going to do what you need to do to find out what's going on so that you can get them back off the bench and get them back on the field as soon as possible. But you have to have a strong bench, because if you don't have a strong bench, you can't do that. You're at their mercy. And that sales rep knows it. They know that they can take a break and they don't have to worry about you, because you can't do anything to them, because you need them to run leads, whether they're on or they just don't feel like running that lead today. So, you have to know your players and how to work with your players, but also have a strong bench, have the ability to put somebody on the bench if at all needed.
Mm. Yeah, that makes sense as well. And I think it's also really important to look at the teams in a very holistic way as well, because everybody has different strengths, and how it would operate together as like one unit as well is also a key factor to consider as well. So let's talk a little bit about your current team setup. So with Top Reps Sales Training, I see that you've been around for almost 10 years, 9 years, 10 years. Tell us a little bit about your current team setup. How many of you are there? Who does what? Whether it's remote, on site.
So we have a rather large team. However, when it comes to coaching, there's three of us. I'm not big on these huge coaching teams, because
Mhm.
again, you have to be able to coach at a certain standard and at a certain level. And that's what we're expected. We don't want to be at the detriment of a coach that, just decides that they just don't feel it today. So there's only three of us, and, we all feed off of each other. The two guys that I brought in are some of the best sales leaders I've ever worked with, and then brought them in here. The best way to do this is, when you're going to go out and look for a coach, if you're a coaching firm and you want to bring in other coaches, the last thing you do is get on social media and say, I'm looking for coaches. You're going to
Mhm.
get the worst. It's almost like getting on social media and saying, hey, we're hiring for sales reps. You're going to get the worst sales reps. You're going to get the worst coaches. You're going to get the most desperate people you've ever seen.
Mhm.
So we go out and we look for the best. And a lot of these folks that have been doing this a while, they're tired. They want to matter. They want to get out there and keep doing what they're doing, but they want to do it in a different capacity. They get a little bored where they're currently at. And so we had found Mike and Brian. Those are our other two coaches. We found them, and they are the best in what they do. Then, of course, we have our sales, which is run by Ashley. And she is probably one of the best sales professionals when it comes to SaaS and coaching that we've ever run across. That's why I won't say her last name, because everybody's going to bombard her. She is
Yeah, they all want to
amazing.
look for her.
Yes. But she is amazing, and she doesn't stop. Even she's a lot like me. When she's on vacation, she's still texting, making phone calls. You just can't turn her off.
Mm.
And then, of course, like I mentioned to you, we have a large staff of VAs. And at first, I didn't really know what to do with a VA. When somebody came to me and says, "Oh, you guys need a VA," and I'm like, "What am
Right.
I going to do with what am I going to do with an assistant?" It has nothing to do with virtual, but with an assistant. And so I got Jet, and the joke in the industry, we hear this all the time, is, "Man, I need a jet." Well, people that don't know the joke, they think that we actually have a private jet. Like, no, his name is Jet, and he was my very first VA. And Jet now runs our company. He went from being my assistant, checking my email, because I didn't know what else you're supposed to do with an assistant
Yeah.
10 years ago.
Yeah.
But he went from that to he runs our company. He is the grease. If he left, I don't know if I'd even know how to run my own organization. That's how involved he's been. It's been great. And so I says, well, we need another one. And
Mhm.
so went out and got a few more and loved them to death. But then I found out not everybody's like Jet.
Okay.
There's just like anything else when you go out and you find people that some of them just don't mix.
Yeah.
And so we've gone through a few to get, so every one of, Ashley has a VA. I've got a VA. Mine's Mitch. I think I talk to her more than I talk to my own wife.
Hmm.
But, Mike's got a VA and so does Brian. Because when we're on, like if I'm sitting here with you, I don't want to sit here and write notes and try to
Yeah,
remember what I'm going to send
of
you.
course.
I can pay full attention to you. And Mitch is writing the notes, using the note takers, and sending the documents that I'm telling you I'm going to send you. And then
Hmm.
because we'll work 10 hours a day and we have 10 clients. So we go straight from one right into the next one.
Hmm.
And so while I'm working on that next client, Mitch is sending all the documentation that I promised that last client.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, just to keep things rolling. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, but yeah, we have a rather large team. Then we have um, our digital team and we have our IT team because we do a lot with AI. We're also the only coach that has simulators. So you can practice and role play everything.
Okay.
Now, simulators are getting to be a big thing in our industry, or role play bots, if you will. But we have continuously worked on this role play bot so that it's the most advanced in the home improvement industry.
Yeah. Well, Chuck, thank you so much for breaking down your team setup as
A
well.
lot.
I do have a couple of follow-up questions.
Yeah,
And I
please.
guess the first question that I wanted to ask you was you talked a lot about when it comes to looking for good coaches or
Mhm.
sales or VAs, you don't go, post and pray on social media websites. So, what are some of the strategies that you have come to find have worked really effectively to be able to find and identify the right talent for your organization?
So one of the ways that we do it is through we have an organization that goes out and finds talent for us. And because I don't like to poach, I
Yeah.
let them do it for me.
Okay.
Because I wouldn't want anybody coming and stealing our people, so I
Yeah.
won't do it directly. But they do it in such a way that they get it into the mainstream, so that we get the better talent. That because I don't want anybody that's not working. I feel if you're not working right now, then somebody doesn't want you, and neither do I.
Mhm.
But because we really are looking for an elevated and very highly paid individual that we can trust and not have to watch over. And so sometimes that might take us 3 or 4 months to
Okay.
find that perfect person that we feel is the best for our industry or for our organization.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's not easy. There's no doubt. A lot of these people, like I like how you say post and pray, because that's what we see so often, and
Yeah,
we
it
know
happens a
that they're
lot.
going to end up with very bottom level talent.
Mhm. That makes sense. And at the end of the day, it's all about really quality versus the urgency to fill a role. Of course, ideally, it would be great to have both as well. But at the end of the day, if you're looking at it from a very long term perspective, you want that to be very a sustainable, it should be sustainable as well. So just like going back to what you mentioned earlier, you're saying that you're looking for a clone of Jet, basically. So, in terms of the challenges right now, do you feel like there are any operational challenges in terms of hiring needs to grow your team?
There's always those challenges,
Okay.
and one of the biggest challenges is everybody has their skill set. They don't always match the skill set that you're looking for, but they come really close. And so we want to know, are they coachable? Are they, if I'm willing to put the money in to send them to get trained in a certain SaaS product, or to do a certain job, would they be willing to go back and go into training to get that specialty? So we are looking for those specialized individuals, but yes, it's I heard somebody mention that you never hire the person and build the position around them. You build the position and you hire the person around it, and that's also not possible. People think it is, and they just get really close to it, like I mentioned. And so that's what we'll do is we try to find that person that closest matches that position, and then we fill the gaps as we can. And then we determine, so we do hire or we hire slow, fire fast. If we find out that, we're going to hit your ceiling and we're not going to get you to learn any more, we will have to move past you. We
Mm-hmm.
never want our business to be at the employee's detriment. We don't
Mm-hmm.
want it where they stop learning and the business has to stop because our employees stop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense as well. Just to follow up, earlier on, you brought up that you are running a coaching simulation. Tell us more a little bit about that.
So we have our simulator and like Top Rep, Top Gun. So we call it a simulator. And every part of the sale is inside that simulator. So you'll go in, you'll hit start, and you'll hear a door knock. The door will open, and Jenny, she's the homeowner, and she will answer the door. And your job is to work your way into the house, and you'll go through that entire process. And every phase of the sale, it'll stop after you have completed that phase, and then it will break down everything. It's This is the only simulator that it'll like you'll see just like in this podcast, you'll see the two. You'll see Jenny and then you'll see me. What it's doing with me is it is analyzing my body language.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll tell me you look bored, that your posture is lazy. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it'll go through every piece and part of what it sees, but it also goes with my tonality.
Mm-hmm.
There's 5 tones. And so there's
Okay.
only 3 that we monitor. And so it'll tell you when you're in the right tone. It'll tell you when you've gotten the right pauses. So it really takes you and turns you into that professional that any coach would love to have you. So it will break it down. It will also through AI, it will
Mm-hmm.
tell you what you did right and what you could have done better throughout that, what you could have said differently. But it
Mm-hmm.
goes through every part of the sale, the inspection, the trial close, the price presentation, what we call the closing roadmap, which is rebuttal handling, those types of things.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting that there is this simulation rollout as well, just so that the coaches are able to also upskill in terms of how they facilitate, how they communicate, how they offer feedback, and so on and so forth. And first question I have is, from your experience, what makes a good coach, stand out from the other average coaches, if that makes sense? And secondly, I guess we can talk a little bit about that later as well, but I would just love to know your thoughts on AI and so on.
So we have found in the coaching industry, I've been in the coaching industry for about 10 years now. And what we had found through the data is that 1 in 1,000 coaches actually make it. And so there's so many people that want to coach. I will tell you, very few coaches should actually be coaching.
Mhm.
Um, and here's why. I've been very lucky to have the godfather of coaching. His name is Keith Rosen. He wrote a book and he coaches on a very broad scale. But he wrote a book, Coaching Salespeople into Sales Champions. And I read the book a long, long time ago. I mean, this was over 20 years ago. And his number at that point, his number was in the back of the book. So I called it and he actually answered. And so him and I started coaching way back then. And I gotten that opportunity to understand what a true coach is. Now, what many people think coaching is that I'm going to sit here and give you advice. No, that's called a trainer or a mentor. That's not a
Mhm.
coach.
Okay.
Coaches, if I was going to sit here and coach you, I'm going to sit here and ask you a bunch of questions because, Carmen, if you already know the answers, if you're going to come to me and get coached, you already know your job, you know your position. And so what I need to do is I need to pull that knowledge out of you, because if it came out of your head, then it's fact. If it comes out of my head, then it's just a good idea. So what I'm trying to do is to really pull that knowledge that you already have and things that you already know. You may not be comfortable doing them, but it is your thing. That's what you do. And so, that's how we coach. The other part of this is that we know where we want to end. Through an assessment that you take before we ever start coaching, we know what success looks like to you, and our job is to get you there as fast as possible. A lot of these coaches, they're more worried about their own pocketbook, so they want you all year
Hmm.
long. I
Yeah.
want you for 4 to 8 weeks. That's it. Because I don't have time to have you for all year long. And so it's like, can I correct the behavior? Can I get you on track in the next 4 to 8 weeks so I can open up other spots for other people to come in? Because we deal with quite a few, anywhere between 40 and 50 companies at a time. And so we don't always have that ability to keep that coaching relationship going. And so what we do from there is we pull you into a group coaching. So once we got you back on track, we go into group coaching. It's more like a mastermind type thing. And we also have a membership it's got the videos that all coaches have that nobody watches. Um, I'm sure you've seen those where they have a big platform of videos that somebody
Yeah.
watches once and never watches again. We
Hmm.
have that, but then we spin it a little bit differently because we know that people don't watch those more than once. And so, we continue to drip other videos into your inbox, so that, we know it's very timely, and we know about from the time that we start with you, being that doing this 10 years, that as you get further away from your coaching, certain things will happen. And so we drip certain videos into your inbox. And it's funny. People are like, it's like you're watching me. And it's like, no, I just know this is week 25.
Hmm.
And this is probably happening right now. And they're like, yeah, it's exactly what's happening.
Yeah.
So, it all goes into coaching. It's why we continue to grow as fast as we do. And why so many companies, they spread the word about Top Rep as fast as they do.
Yeah. I like what you mentioned about when it comes to what makes a coach stand out from a mentor or a trainer or like an advisor, so to speak, is that the first the first analogy that came to my mind is that as a coach, you are literally holding a mirror, right? And seeing a reflection. And basically they already know their answers from within. And you are serving as a guide to kind of like walk you through and navigate, the next steps as well, rather than, okay, here's what you're gonna do, but rather asking the right questions to kind of direct them in the right path as well. So but as you were talking, Chuck, the first thing that really came to my mind was really like they are holding a mirror and really exposing whether it's comfortable or uncomfortable as well. But it is essential. It is necessary in order for them to be able to succeed whatever they want to do as well. So that just came to my mind. I just wanted to share that.
Another thing is that a good coach is also a good mentor, is also a good friend, is also a good trainer. So coaches don't just coach. It depends on what's needed at the time. And we ask permission to mentor. We ask permission to train. And it's not so that they can give me permission. It's so that they know what's coming. Where is this information going to be coming from?
Yeah, makes sense. And in terms of the space of AI, you talked a lot about how you're integrating AI for the coaching simulation in terms of the body language, in terms of the tone, in terms of how they show up in communication and so on. Um, are there any other aspects of your business where you are integrating AI or training your team members to utilize in the process?
AI is a great tool. It also makes fake coaches, unfortunately. And there is a term that I've heard a few months ago called AI slop. And, the AI can be great and it can also kill you. It can kill your credibility. It can, because it hallucinates. It will give you the wrong information in many cases. So you really have to be careful what you do with AI,
Mm-hmm.
especially when you're a business advisor of any kind, because the moment that company that's paying you, they're not paying Claude, they're not paying Chat GPT, they realize that you're getting your information from AI, they start to feel cheated. They start to feel like, why am I using you when I can just ask Claude these questions? And it also gives a broad answer rather than the right answer. And so it's very easy to find if somebody's going to do that. So you got to be very careful with AI, but it can be very powerful if you use it as research. If
Mm-hmm.
you want to use AI, use it as research. Do not use it in any form or fashion of customer facing. We've seen this where people have tried to use it as a clone, and those clones will go in, and if you don't use the clone right, it will venture outside of your content to go find content. But if you do it right, it doesn't. There's safeguards to make sure that it stays inside of your YouTube channel, that it stays inside of all your content, all of your training videos, everything, so that when your client asks it a question, that it really is information. It's AI, but it's information that's coming from you, not where it couldn't quite find the answer it wanted, so it goes into its bank of fake information to pull it.
Yeah. In a way, when it comes to navigating all these different AI tools, it is actually in fact a skill, right? Because you also need to understand how to even, for an example, generate the right prompts in order to really get and extract the correct information or data bank or ideas that you're looking for too. Because oftentimes, as mentioned, it could be a very powerful tool to automate, optimize, give you ideas, but you have to also understand what exactly you're looking for in order to get what you want, because oftentimes that can be overused in a different way, or often it can be abused in a different way too. Just wanted to ask one final
Mhm.
question for the listeners out there.
Yeah.
Um, if, for an example, there are people considering to start a business and you've been in the business for a while, if you could look or if you could share one piece of advice or insight from your whole journey to where you are now in terms of starting a business for people considering to start it, what would it be?
Wow, that's big. A big piece of advice is, if you're going to seek out information, the easiest and most affordable, but also the toughest information you can get is through a mentor. But here's the thing, is that you actually do end up paying mentors. You pay them by doing what they suggest you to do. Because the moment that a mentor tells you something, and this is usually a business owner that's done it and has been extremely successful, but the moment that they find out that you did not use their information, that you didn't act on their information, they're done. They cut you off. They no longer
Mm-hmm.
want to talk to you. They feel like you're a waste of time. And so anything that, as long as, if you're going to go out and look for a mentor, but same thing for a good coach, because we've let a few of our clients go where we just wonder, it's like, you're not doing anything that we're asking you to do. And so I don't want to take any more of your money. And because I feel like I'm making a lot of money with you not doing anything. So, it's really the same if you have a really good coach, that you better do what they ask you to do or they will just stop.
Hmm.
So
Makes
that's
sense.
kind of what I would kind of put in that category.
Yeah. No, that's definitely a very refreshing perspective as well for potential entrepreneurs or business owners to consider when starting a business, really to take advice, work with a coach, be able to get to where they are as well. Chuck, again, thank you so, so much for coming on to our podcast. This is Behind the Founders. Be sure to stay tuned for the next episode. Thanks again.